Welcome to another preview video for Destinies Witchwood. This is the third expansion in the series, the Destinies System. I have to admit I'm quite biased because I really love the game. I really love the system. Destinies, for those of you who have not discovered it yet, you're missing out. And in this video I'm going to give you an opportunity to get to know Destinies because the core rules of the Destinies Witchwood are the same. So with the opportunity I'm going to explain the system overall to you, and I'm just going to then focus on the different things that are introduced from the first of the four scenarios included in the Destinies Witchwood expansion. Now Destinies Witchwood is an expansion that brings us a new world to discover. We are deep in the wood and there are different creatures and different things to be discovered and different stories and tales and quests to be pursued, etc. But what is Destinies overall, for those of you who don't know? Destinies is a highly thematic, highly satisfying hybrid digital board game which uses both an app and physical components. So instead of having a game master, you have an app which gives you opportunities, gives you choices, gives you consequences on your actions and instructions how to expand, explore and see the new world. We love the system even from the core game, and now with this new expansion more material is added, and of course all this material is also going to be added on the community editor, which means that the tiles, the world, the items can be used from publicly from the community editor, which is something that Lucky Duck offers for everybody to be able to even create even more scenarios. But what new comes into this game? New things that come into this expansion on the Destiny system are the labyrinths. The labyrinth is a different type of let's say quest progression, because you go into a path of branches and then you have to remember which direction you take. There are always rewards in each of those directions, but not all of them are really getting you where you want to go. So you have to remember which choices you did and then go backwards and choose the other, let's say, door or the other side of the town to explore or the other option to go to. And there are new characters that they have new destinies in there. There are new items. They have new also tiles with new art and new map, but above all there is a new story, and this is the important thing. And from my experience from the first scenario, because what I'm going to show you here are just the components of the first scenario, so mini styles, cards, etc., only for the first scenario. From the art and from what they have released, I'm really excited to see what's coming next with this GameFound campaign. But on top of the more cool material, but they're also adding some material backwards compatible, which means they give more replayability even for the core game as expansions and modules, separate modules, some different ways to play the previous scenarios, and again more material to interact with whatever material has already been released so far on Destiny's World. Now, if you own Destinies, there is no way, you don't even need to see this video. You should get the expansion. I'm definitely getting it myself. I love the system, so everything more on this system, on this world, on this approach, on the hybrid digital approach board game, and on this world is a plus in my book. More stories, more cool ideas, and even more mechanics, because here on the Destinies Witchwood expansion you have travel. You have a new mechanic where you can move from this side of the map, take a boat or something and travel and go to another side of the map. And what does this allow from design point of view, even for the scenarios to be played in the game box, but also for the new ones to be created, allows not to be constrained by the scenery of a specific location. Because, okay, we are in the woods, but let's say we take the travel action and we go to a different pocket of the woods, and then we can see a different scenery there. And that gives a possibility also for the community editor, because by traveling you can combine different terrain types and you can expand the scenarios, and you can make even huge and more bigger stories to play. So I'm really looking forward to this being implemented more and being discovered more in the subsequent scenarios included released in the Witchwood expansion. Another cool opinion and another cool thing that they have is they have the traveling merchant, which are merchants that they travel, so they're not stationary where you can go and interact. You meet them during your travels, and then when you travel again you can meet them because they are also moving together with you, and you may see them again and have the opportunity to trade with them. So lots of cool new ideas here with again hooked on the same solid, robust system used on Destinies Witchwood. So join me at the table. Without further ado, let me show you how the game plays. I'm going to put timestamps in the description of the video, so those of you who are already familiar with how the game plays, you can jump directly to the next session, so you can see only the new aspects of the Witchwood expansion, where I'm going to discuss a bit more about that on the second part of the video. Those of you who don't know Destinies, it's a great opportunity to see how the game plays. It's a great system, so I'm telling you, I'm loving it. I think a lot of people do love it. Let me show you how the game plays. Let me show you all the new material on the first scenario of the 4 included in the Witchwood expansion. And let's come back at the end of the video for some wrap-up. Hi, welcome to this preview video for Destinies Witchwood, which is the third expansion for the acclaimed and highly thematic and highly enjoyable and highly satisfying game Destinies. Given the opportunity, since we haven't shown any gameplay or how to play video for Destinies, and since 99% of the rules are the same, plus the extra perks that they are unlocked on the Destinies Witchwood with the scenarios and different labyrinths and traveling options, etc. If you haven't played Destinies at all, you're missing a great game. But I'm going to explain the rules. They both apply for the Destinies Witchwood and the Destinies core game, so I'm going to show you how the game plays, and following that I'm going to focus on some aspects and highlights on Destinies Witchwood. Keep in mind that this is a great highly thematic game, and I'm really keeping this among the highest in my collection from a thematic point of view, narrative point of view, and also from an innovative point of view, since it's a hybrid game. So let's jump right ahead and go through what's Destinies. So Destinies offers a fully story-driven, app-supported, RPG-like board game experience without the need for a game master. Wow, how cool is that? Each scenario depicts part of a vivid world full of dark stories, epic NPCs, non-player characters that is, and mysteries to solve. Each player takes the role of a hero on a quest to fulfill their own destiny. Each destiny is the final goal of the character and has at least 2 completely different paths to victory. Composed of a branching series of quests, players compete with each other to push the world towards their own destiny and win the game. The game can also be played as solo, both as an open exploration mode with no pressure, but also as a challenge mode with specific turns. The game uses an app and a scan and play technology to offer players a unique story-driven experience full of dynamic events, epic adventures, and an ever-changing game world. At every turn, players discover new parts of the world presented on tiles, explore them, and pick one point of interest to visit. Then they learn more about the story and make crucial choices about how they want to interact with people, creatures, or situations faced. The consequences of each choice are meaningful and often change the state of the world forever. So let's introduce ourselves to the world of Destinies. The prophets speak of an angel death of his descent upon the earth to bring forth the end of days. There will be omens heralding his arrival, they say. Divine punishments shall be brought upon the sinners, and with them, one by one, the seals of the apocalypse will be broken. But while famine, pestilence, and war scourge the land, there will still be hope. The chosen few, their fates intertwined with the heaven's destinies and designs, will given power to shape these ordeals and bring unto others both punishment and salvation. The deeds will be testament to the will and strength of the mortal. As pests devour the fruit and the grain, as the plague lays low the noble and poor alike, as the holy maiden brings the flame of war to her enemies. The angel of death watches and judges all. May he deem those destined souls worthy, for if not, all shall burn. So let's familiarize ourselves with the components of the core game, and then we'll of course focus on the components of the prototype that I have in my hands for the Destinies Witchwood, again the third expansion in the series, and show you what the components are for the first scenario of the 4 that the Destinies Witchwood will include. So again, these are components of the base game. We have 67 map tiles. You can see that the art on this is phenomenal, and of course as stories come together, these map tiles reveal world situations and different choices. Okay, there's no actual spoiler here because you don't even know the stories or whatever, and actually what's important is the point of interest and what you're going to discover. But typically those tiles are face down because they are unexplored through their various scenarios, and once explored they provide different choices, miniatures which are NPCs, non-player characters for players to interact, as well as various points of interest with different choices, paths, and branching story arcs, which really unravel a deep, really thematic and rich world to discover. Okay, so these are the tiles, and this is the unexplored side. It shows the same art like the one in the front, but with a mist and a bit of absence of more detailed art, I would say. These are numbered on the bottom right, so you can see exactly which number it's requested from the app to be added and what specific space. There are, of course, lots of different cards. There are 150 cards. I'm just going to show you some, not all of them. These cards vary from different things like horse, food, weapons, magical items, hatchets, talisman, you name it, there is everything. Food, consumables, relics, and so on. So all these are important, and all these have a value, which you can buy them or sell them at specific markets. And of course they have abilities here, and they have the QR code. This is important because in the game you may have to interact or give an item to a character so that they unlock the story and provide you some benefits or whatever, or use an ability of an item, etc. So this is really important, and there are 150 of those cards. There are also the Destiny cards. There are 15 Destiny cards, and these are cards of the different characters that you can play in the game: the witch, the noble, the soldier, and so on, the nun. You all have different destinies. You see two QR codes, one on the left and one on the right, one on the purple banner, one on the white banner. And just briefly to show you, they have a story, and they have two different destinies to be followed, which you can also switch within the game if your course of action favors one or the other. So there is no hard choice at any given time. You can go to whatever makes more sense. Next in the components we have, of course, this fantastic insert which holds everything. We have these nice tokens. Of course, you can also get, I think, metal tokens as an add-on. You have these beautiful dice. You always roll 2 dice, no matter what, for each test, and they are always available every time, even numerous times in the same turn before the end turns. These are really detailed, and the white ones are quite huge. These are the main dice, and also each player has up to 3 effort dice, which at the start of every turn they unlock 1, and they also have an auto success, which the white dice do not have, and they are rewarded also through your actions in the game, and this can boost your success rate for the different skills and efforts. There are also some 20 experience tokens. Again, very thick cardboard, great quality. These are tokens that you can spend to move any one skill test marker to sides on the left, either intelligence, dexterity, or power. I will see how this works, or 2 different ones by one to the left to improve them. Speaking of skill markers, these go on specific levels for each of the skills according to the app and the scenario. And once you improve them, you select one of those and move them down, because you want to hit this number or hit as many discs for successes in your total dice roll in terms of pips and the sum. And this will be moving down through a positive action, or moving up through a negative action when actually you become less good in this test, etc. And you have skills, and this is a recessed board with slots for 5 items you have at the bottom. This is where you keep your dice and your gold, and here's where you put your card, and everything really works really well. Okay, so this is a base description of the components. Keep in mind that there are too many things here to cover in detail, but there are lots of miniatures, either from huge miniatures like yeah, that one, how cool is that? And keep in mind, in Witchwood, I don't have it with me unfortunately, but you're going to get this amazing miniature on the cover as the main miniature of the expansion. So this is really huge in my opinion. Great detail as well, and great posture and great design. But you have numerous NPCs, which are smaller characters that you're going to see as villagers or characters of points of interest. And of course, depending on the scenario, they may do different or have different role. Okay, but some are generic, some very specific, tied to specific scenarios. I'm mentioning generic because there is a community editor on Steam where you can, besides the scenarios that you can play again and again, there is replayability here for sure, especially if everyone has played the scenario, they can indeed all of them play it again because it doesn't have any unfair advantage to any of the other players. But also there will be numerous user made scenarios on the community editor and the community, and lots to be discovered there, which is an amazing gift from Lucky Duck to us. So 31 miniatures, player characters and NPCs, discs, dice, and of course we have this type of tokens which come in pairs. These are the trade tokens. You use one to put on the map and one to put on a stack of cards if you meet a trader, for example, and have a bag of specific items for you to trade, etc. So these are the components of the game, of the core, and maybe in parallel I can show you just some of the miniatures of the Witchwood expansion, which focuses on, of course, the forest and the woods, as you would expect. Just to see some of these are prototype miniatures, of course, but they're really, really nice. This is a broken one. I have a live playthrough of my session of the first scenario out of the 4 of the expansion, so you can go and check it there. There are no major spoilers, so don't worry. Of course, the cards that you see on the right, which are tiles from the prototype, which are from the first scenario only. But in any case, I'm going to come back to this. Let's continue with the system of Destinies because it's common. What you need is you need the Destinies app, which you can get on Google Play, Google iOS App Store or Steam, so you can have it in either smartphone or your PC, which is really, really cool. And of course, just to show you, this is an example of the Destinies. Here you can play the core, you can play the Sea of Sand expansion, the make of the myth and folklore, and this is the Witchwood expansion, which is an app for the expansion. This is a hybrid game, so you only download it once when you start the game, okay? And then you don't need internet access, so just select quickly a character. It says you where to put your stats, where you start. You put discs for intelligence at 5, 7, 10, 11, dexterity, etc., etc. Your starting materials, and then the scenario starts. Gives you some idea on how is your introductory tile where you start from, usually the epicenter of everything, some initial NPCs, characters and markers with which you can interact, and I'm going to explain how this works. Just to show you, okay. And here is, for example, you can visit that character or you can visit that point of interest, etc. This is the main way that the app works, and it's a hybrid game exactly as it is described as such. So a word about the campaign and the replayability. Destinies comes in 5, the core game at least, and again let me show you because not to be confused with the expansion. This is the Destinies core. It comes with 5 different scenarios. The Nature of the Beast is a standalone and it's suggested as a first scenario to play the game. I just bumped the camera, so good for me. The 4 other scenarios form a campaign and they can be played in a sequence, but it's not necessarily. Of course, there is replayability in the game, and this is important because a lot of people think that this is one-time scenario and that's it. No, Destiny is inspired by a sandbox game. Each scenario presents part of a vivid world and gives players many options to visit and branches to discover and unravel. But Destiny scenarios may be replayed, but only if all players already have played the scenario. Otherwise, the player who already have played a particular scenario may have an unfair advantage over a player playing it for the first time. Other than that, it has huge replayability for sure. Now, setup is very, very easy. In the app, we choose a scenario to play from the core game or this expansion. We read the scenario introduction aloud to all players. Each player then chooses one of the playable characters presented in the app as an option, as you've seen before. If players cannot agree, they just select randomly, and each player gets a player board, which is this one, 2 main dice, which are the white ones, and they start available. Typically, they get 1 coin, which goes also in your available pool. 3 effort dice, and then they go on the exhausted outside of your board, and at the start of each turn the app reminds you to refresh one and take it there so it's available. And you get, of course, your character card and the respective miniature to start at the starting tile respectively. Okay, here are some some tiles unraveled from the first scenario of Destinies Witchwood. Of course, no spoiler there because you don't know what these points of interest do, but anyway. We continue with each scenario's setup instructions as indicated in the app clearly. You place specific map tiles on the table. Some of them would be next to the main one that you start, or the other ones unexplored, so you need to move there in order to explore it, and then the app will tell you what to add, where, either specific miniatures where they're considered NPCs and you can interact, or respective points of interest which have name and have different interaction options for you to do different things as per scenario specific indication respectively. So you place the available points of interest markers with the tokens as instructed during setup, and any miniatures there as well, any points of interest there, and the characters start at the starting map tile and you're ready to begin the game. What is the objective? Players are each trying to fulfill their personal destiny, and each destiny gives a player two completely different possible paths. They are behind this screen. One is on the left and one is on the right, and one is purple colored and one is white colored, and this is specific because during the course of the action you may meet the characters and you may ask them to about your destiny, so they can give you clues and you can understand more things about what you need to do or where you need to go, so you can scan each side and ask them specifically. For sure, this is a huge part of the game. The app informs players when they reach the next steps of their path, and players are free to switch between their two paths anytime and can even try to progress on both paths, even though that wouldn't be very sufficient to the full extent. And when a player is ready, they start the finale, a series of events which ends with their player fulfilling their destiny, and the first player to fulfill their destiny is the winner. A player will never be blocked from their finale and their personal destiny, no matter what quests and items their opponents might have taken. And one player might start the finale with first, but another may be better prepared playing the finale, and they may start their finale later, but fulfill it first and then win the game. Now, the game flow. Player takes turns passing the device from one to another. A player's turn has 3 steps. First, the start of the turn, then the movement, and third and last, the visiting of a point of interest. All narrative events and information gained during play are public information, and the active player has to read them aloud to other players, and all descriptions in the app are public information as well. So, first step in my turn as an active player is the start of the turn. At the start of the turn, the player refreshes one effort die, so typically all these are out, and you may have some. So at the start of the day, you refresh one by adding it. Let's remove this and that, because this is how we start in most of the scenarios. Adding it from outside, which is the exhausted area, in here, which makes it available. At any given time, even if I have 2 or more tests in a turn, because sometimes the app may force me to end my turn, these 2 dice are always available. This depends on if I have them here, which are available, because if I start with a test with no available dice, they're considered exhausted. I can only use the normal dice, not the main dice, not the effort dice, which also have an automatic success, as described before. And I want to have as many as possible, maximum 3. So, also most game events trigger at this step at the player's turn. Then we have the movement. Players may choose any tile, whether it is up to 2 tiles away from their current position, counting orthogonally, not diagonally, and players may move on to the unexplored tile, but they must immediately stop their movement there if they are reaching their destination by exploring. So this is my character, this is a broken one, this is again from the expansion of Witchwood. The brave one is another one. So he's, where is he? Yeah, he has the axe. And the bride is the third one, at least in the first scenario, because you're going to have more. But I want to show you also this witch. How cool are these minis? Okay, so let's say I want to move during my second step of my turn, the second phase of my turn, movement. I can move up to 2 spaces. So let's assume that this is explored, and this goes there, and this goes there, whatever, okay? The app will instruct me how to place them. So I'm here, so I can go 1 or 1, 2, never diagonally, okay? Or I can stop at one, I don't have to do my full movement, or I don't even have to move at all, and then I conclude my movement. Players may choose any tile that is up to 2 tiles away and do their movement. If you are at the edge of a tile and the app has already placed an unexplored tile there for you, because that means that it's an area for you to move, because you cannot move to a side which is not unexplored, it doesn't have a gray tile with mist. If I move there, I notify the app because it lets me move there. I turn the tile and I move my figure over there, but I stop my movement even if I had more to move, more movement points, because I just explored. So when I move on to an explored tile, after moving to explore tile, the player may visit a point of interest. So let's say here, I move here, or let's say I explored and then the app told me to add a couple of characters and a couple of NPCs and a couple of points of interest. By the way, I heard, and I really hope that's the case, during the campaign you'll be able to buy 3D minis for the points of interest instead of having tokens to have minis with flags or, I don't know, banners or whatever. That'll be really cool. Okay, so once you're on an explore tile, if you just explored, it will become explore for you. You have to decide if to interact with one point of interest. Point of interest can be either those tokens or any NPCs, which are a non-player character minis. So they're represented generally by tokens and miniatures. So if I move onto an unexplored tile, after moving onto an explored tile, the player explores it by clicking it on the app, follow the instructions. Typically they say flip the tile, place a player character miniature this and that on the top, place some points of interest exactly there. They have a specific name. So this could be, I don't know, a wandering fellow, or this could be some prey that was left behind or something like that. So you place any specific items as indicated by the app, and then that's the same if it was unexplored or explored, you proceed with the point of interest. To visit the point of interest, the player clicks on the chosen point of interest on the app, so click, and let me show you also here. Again, this is from the first scenario of, so here you see, let's say I'm starting here, so I can move here. Do I want to explore this tile? Okay, yeah, let's explore it. So then I would flip it. The app would tell me some information, and then they will tell me to add some, there is music also here, of course, to add some points of interest, and in periodically, I will end my turn. I may add some miniatures as well there. Okay, so this is the next turn. So if I want to move, I can interact with the shrine, which is a point of interest, or I can interact with an NPC, which is again a point of interest. So here I will have a lot of options. Now, the options could be to do a test. So you'll have this, that, or that icon, power, dexterity, and intelligence. And you need to have a number of successes typically in order to get a positive result. Or I can have different interactions. So generally, when visiting a point of interest, the player will have multiple options. Any or all of the options may be chosen in any order, but each option can only be chosen once. In some cases, choosing an option may open or close may open, for example, new options, or even force the player to have to leave the point of interest, or even close some options. In general, the possible options are either interactions, either tests, those three types of tests, scanning a card, so it gives you the scan icon, and it tells you to scan specifically something so that you can progress, either your destiny or a card. Or trading, which has a hand with some coins in there where you can trade with a character and gain buy or sell items respectively. So let's see the interactions. The interaction is the simplest one. As an interaction, lets players do an action without having to pass a test. The action will automatically happen, but its consequences vary and are unknown beforehand. Sometimes doing an action will change the situation and give the player a new choice to make. The player must choose to proceed. For example, let's say it says here, to ask about the contest. So I proceed and I ask him, and then I have some more options. Maybe I can show him something, maybe I can ask him more, maybe I can look at a golden knife. Okay, stuff like that. In any case, new things will pop up from the interactions. Another option is a test. A test lets a player attempt something harder. For example, they can tell you test your power. Of course, passing a test, you're going to see how test works, is really important, but also you never know how many successes you need to pass a test. A test lets a player attempt something harder and less certain than interactions with a random chance of success. And when choosing a test in the app, the player will know what type of skill they will need to test, this, that, or that. But the app will not explicitly state the test difficulty. This must be deduced from the description. For example, breaking a stick surely is easier than lifting a huge rock. The tests are three. We have power, the red one. Power reflects strength, health, and endurance. Examples are fighting a monster, lifting a heavy object, running a long distance. The green is dexterity. Dexterity reflects agility and sense of awareness. Examples are sneaking past guards, searching for tracks, climbing a tree. Starts getting nice, yeah? And then the blue is intelligence, reflects cleverness, charisma, wisdom, etc. And examples could be something like talking to someone, focusing on a task, reasoning, persuading someone, drawing conclusions, etc. When taking a test, the player must roll their dice. The dice are two types. We have the white and the purple. The main dice, the white, each player has two. These are used in every test, and they use is obligatory, so you don't actually there's no reason not to want to roll. Want to roll more, not less. They do not become exhausted, and they can be used every test and every turn and multiple times. F4 dice are different. Each player can have up to 3, which may optionally be rolled with the main die together during a test, but you need to have them available and not exhausted. A player may choose to roll all or some or none of the F4 dice that they are in the supply. In this case, I have only one. Those two are not available to me. When F4 die is used, it becomes exhausted after the result, and then until typically at the start of your next turn, the app will instruct you to refresh one of your die and give you one available again. Reminding you that it's the one that has also automatic success, where these main dice do not have. To check how well they did on a test, the player sums the number of all the dice rolled. Let's say I was trying to lift a rock. So I roll them and I sum 4 plus 4 plus 2. That means I have here 10. That means I count all the way up to 10 and I see how many discs I have at 10 and lower. This means that many successes. In this case, I have 4. But let's say I was like that. I had 2 plus 4 plus 1. That will be 5 plus 2, 7. That means I go all the way up to here. So I have 1, 2, 3 successes. That means that when I do test something, I'm going to add in the app. And let me show you an example. I'm going to add in the app the number of successes. So let's say I go here, I visit, and I want to make an intelligence, examine my surroundings. So I roll for a test, I count my successes, and I say I have these successes. Okay, I cannot have a huge amount, but may have more than 4 at some point if I add more discs or whatever. Let's say I have 3, I confirm, and then this is the result. So depending again, you'll see different things from the app based on the branch story and based on the number of successes. Typically, the tests are easy with requiring 1 success to pass, moderate requiring 2, difficult requiring 3, very difficult requiring 4, and epic requiring 5 or 6. They give various results depending on the player's number of successes, and even a low number of success can have an effect, but trying again later and getting more successes may give a different, better result. A test in Destinies never need more than 6 successes, and when deciding how many F4 dice to use, this table that I just mentioned must be kept in mind. It's also included in the rulebook. Now, another option that you can do as a point of interest interaction is to, during an interaction, you can scan for item cards. When visiting a point of interest, players will often have the option to scan their items. The app indicates whether the particular scan represents talking about an item with an NPC, using something or whatever. If a player asks an NPC about their character weapon, the weapon won't be lost. But if a player gives a weapon to an NPC, the NPC, the non-player character, may not give it back. So let's try to give you here, let's try to bring him a gift. And let's say I'm going to scan, tap and scan this map. Your gift is rejected, okay? Or it could be accepted depending on the story branch, etc. So this is one of the beautiful things. Another option you can do is you can ask for your destiny. Asking for your destiny has, instead of this icon, which is item scan, it has this item, which is destiny scan. So you ask a specific person about your destiny, either this destiny or that destiny, and gives you more information, so it will help you follow your path and hopefully win the game. Each Destiny card has 2 QR codes to reflect 2 different paths the character may take, and if a player talks to an NPC about their destiny, they should scan the code of the specific path they want to talk about. All text in the app is public, of course, and should always be read aloud. And NPC answers about destiny are usually worded in an indirect way that makes them much harder to understand for opponents than it would make for people who know their destiny options actually. So another option could be a scan or test. Some situation in the game gives players a choice of using an item or performing a test to achieve the same result. If a player uses the right item, the action automatically succeeds. But if they use the wrong item, the action automatically fails. In contrast, a test gives a chance of success. Depending on the player's skill markers and the number of effort dice rolled, a player can only try one of these 2 options, and then they may be able to try again if they come back, or the story is altered in a way, and then you have to proceed with the outcome. Another option is trading. You can meet a character where, for example, you can go there and try to make a trade. Typically, when a point of interest offers trading, which is a hand with some coins in terms of symbol, then the app will typically instruct the player to create a trade stack. So they will tell you, okay, take the golden apple and I don't know, the fireflies and whatever, 2 more things, or this is what this merchant carries, or this trader, and put 2 matching tokens, 1 here next to the stack and 1 here. So you can trade with this trader, and then you can leave and come back, and they will still know that this links to that pile of materials that he carries, and you can buy them or sell them or whatever. 1 trade stack token goes next to the point of interest on the map, and its matching token goes on the item cards nearby where it's available to buy. The trade stack remains in play at the point of interest from moving now on with whatever items are there, and thus if one player sells an item there, later another player may buy it. You can always buy and sell items from the coin value on the top right side of the item cards, and events during game may cause new items to appear in trade stacks or traders to disappear. Besides trading, players can also use money for other purposes. Sometimes you can offer money for a bride. That's why you're collecting money, because you can get a beneficial effect by bribing someone, for example. Now, the last point of interest is the finale interaction. This is a special point of interest, and this is the icon in the app, in the finale. This is different, this is just interaction, these are skill tests, this is item scan, this is destiny scan, trading, and this is the finale interaction art. Once a player has fulfilled the requirements, typically asking them to pursue, get some materials, gather something, make a mission, unlock something, find specific characters, etc, etc, etc. Once these are done according to their destiny, therefore they're trying to pursue, they can visit a specific point of interest which is hinted on the destiny card, and when the app will come, they will present a new option only to that specific player to trigger their finale. And then, for example, you begin the finale. Up to the finale there are no major spoilers, but once a player starts a finale, it could be major spoilers, but again, if all players have played the game, they have seen the same information, so this is not affair for future replayability. And these are basically all the things that you know about the game. Once you finish, you end your turn on your app as you have seen, and then you move to the next day. Quickly, some points of interest. Typically, when you fail on tests or when you do something meaningful in the game awards you with this point, which is an experience token. At any time during your turn, but not during tests, you can spend this to either improve by 2 one of your skills, or move one and another one by 1. Again, the lower these go, the better it is, because it's the more success you'll have. The higher these go, because as a penalty, the worse it is, because the less success you'll be able to roll, because you want to make higher total numbers. The game may award you to gain, which shows they are like that, or lose skill status. In any case, you follow the instructions of the app. A final word about cards and items. You have only 5 slots at the bottom of your board. You can keep them. They have different things. They can either progress the story, expected to be delivered to some NPCs to unravel the story and move forward, the beauty of the game. And they have 2 options. You can either be discard, which you use it and then you discard it for the effect here, or always. They give you an ability that is always on. And of course, if you scan them and show them to NPCs, then they may unlock something, and they may be used for your story progression. Last thing about the game, it can be played also as a solo. If you play it as a solo, you can either play it as exploring mode, where there is no pressure for succeeding fast in a specific number of turns and no consequences. You can just wander around, or you can play it as a challenge solo, where you have to do it in a specific turn, emulating the multiplayer game respectively, because you have to meet the conditions sooner than later. Now let's move to Destinies Witchwood. So this is the expansion of Destinies, the third expansion in the row. Destinies is an award-winning competitive story-driven hybrid digital board game full of adventure and exploration, and this is really the case. As advertised, the game uses an app and scan technology to offer players a unique story-driven experience full of dynamic events, epic adventures, and ever-changing game world. I really concur to that, and I totally agree. And the consequences of the players are always meaningful and often change the state of the world forever. Now, specifically for this expansion, this is the third story expansion in the Destinies system, following Destinies Myth and Folklore, Destinies Sea of Sand, and this is the third one in the row. Together with the core box, it's a fourth box, let's say like that. The third expansion, fourth box. It needs the core game to be played. Destinies Witchwood features 4 scenarios. And in the separate video that you can see, I have made a playthrough of the first scenario, which is included in the prototype of this box. This prototype only has material for the first scenario, so not the full game expansion components. 4 scenarios with lots of new content, including sprawling world to explore, fantastical items, monsters, and an exciting array of travel encounters, and narrative-rich destinies to discover. And there are some cool mechanics and new concepts introduced here, which I'm going to mention in a sec. The Kickstarter campaign, as the GameFound campaign, because it's actually on GameFound, will offer additional modular expansion content that can be used with all Destiny content, and the publisher has already been advertising some surprises which are really cool, giving more replayability, even more replayability to the previous game boxes. All of the content in Destiny Witchwood will also be compatible with the Destinies community editor, as I mentioned. This means that you can create your own scenarios or play scenarios created by users around the globe right inside the Destinies app. How cool is that? Keep in mind, again, this is a prototype, so anything you see, it's not a final component. These are at the early stage of development and not present the final material. Only components for the first scenario are included here, so this is going to be a full rich box packed with components, but now you only see just the first scenario components, of course. You are able to see some of the art already on the tiles, some of the genre. Again, there is no major spoiler. Even if you see the video that I'm showing the first scenario, there will be no spoiler for you, because I'm not going to show you anything about the finale, so no major spoilers there, so you can easily see it. I'm going to put a link in the description of the video so you can follow if you already haven't done, and register for notification immediately at launch. Okay? And what is the theme about Destinies Witchwood? Where is the world that they bring to us here? Long ago, a pact was made with the dwellers of the wood, and by the rules of this agreement, men must keep to their villages and paths scattered through the vast forest like embers of light. But what lies beyond belongs to other, older masters, creatures of ancient magic who look unkindly upon trespassers. Despite this pact, daring souls explore the woodland labyrinth in search of treasures, adventure, and secrets. This is Witchwood. The Destinies system offers a fully story-driven, app-supported RPG-like board game experience, and now with this expansion, more material comes into gameplay. This is still played by 1 to 3 players, still being possible to be played as solo, lasts around 120 to 150 minutes, 14 ages, 14 up, and offers new cool material. So, just to show you a couple of things from the prototype rulebook that you can see here. So, the components will include 55 more cards, but I'm not sure even if it's 55 because I've seen many more. Anyway, 11 map tiles. You're going to find 6 miniatures. You're going to find 3 Destiny cards in the prototype. In the final expansion, there will be many more Destiny cards, many more miniatures, many more cards, many more tiles, etc. These are the components of the prototype, which also compensate only for one of the 4 scenarios. Many more material will be included in the full expansion. The campaign now. The Witchwood campaign comes with 4 scenarios, forming a campaign that should be played in suggested order to give you more out of it. Some of the player's actions will carry over to the next scenarios, changing how they unfold, and it's recommended by the publisher to play the whole campaign with the same group of players, but it's not mandatory like the core game. While the scenarios are linked together, each unveils the next steps of the bigger plot. Each scenario is a separate story, and you don't need to have knowledge of previous scenarios in order to play the next ones. Now, the game flow is exactly the same. That's why I explained the basic rules of Destiny, so now you know exactly how Destinies Witchwood also plays. If you haven't played Destinies, it was a great introduction for you. If you didn't remember how to play it, this was a reminder. But now let's focus on the aspects of the expansion altogether. The Witchwood expansion brings the points of interest option maze, and I've encountered that in my playthrough. Some points of interest might lead you into a labyrinth of twisting forest paths where you will have to choose your way whether your path splits. Now here, this is the tricky part. Some paths may lead to a dead end, but in each labyrinth there will be rewards to be found in any choice. And then you'll have to try to remember the path you chose, because the next time you can explore different paths and pick the correct pathway. If you have some, of course, objects like maps, etc., which I had in my case, you may be directed easier to the correct choice to unravel the story. Correct paths through most mazes can be found somewhere in the scenario. Another option is the travel, which we didn't have in the core game. Here you have submaps. Typically on the previous core box, you were on one location which was expanded by exploration. Here you can travel and go to different side and explore a different side. So this gives so many more opportunities, because you can do whatever you want. You are not restricted by one scenery and one grid of map tiles connected together. You can go somewhere else, take the boat and go to the seaside and explore there, or go to an island where you're in the woods or whatever. To represent this, the vast woods separating the isolated pockets of relatively safety, players will often have to travel between separate smaller maps. And then in order to do that, you put points of interest and say you travel from here, there, and then you continue. But once you are on a different sub-map, you have to move over there. You have to take the point of interest to go back to your previous location. The points of interest travel option is the new thing that is reduced. Whenever you interact with a point of interest that allows you to travel, you choose this option and it will send your way. The player selects his destination and embarks on a journey that may take for the rest of their turn. And of course, at first the list of destinations will be short, but as the game progresses, more and more options will be available, and they will put the pieces of the puzzle together. The encounters. You travel through Witchwood, which is dangerous affair, more dangerous than ever, and anytime a player travels, many things can happen upon encounter. So some encounters may force the player to test their skills while traveling, for example, to avoid dire consequences. Others may be beneficial. And there is a new type of merchant, the traveling merchant. During the travels through the wilderness, players will sometimes encounter traveling merchants, and in such cases they will be asked to set up a new trade stack again, and this will give them more opportunities for trading with different NPCs, and of course they may also meet them again during the travels. So these are the new mechanics that you find in Destinies. So let me just again show you quickly some of the components so that we can wrap up this video, and then I will there is no spoiler here, I just mixed everything, so don't worry. I'll show you, I will refer to you to the live playthrough, so where you can see me playing the first scenario of Destinies Witchwood. Okay, so let's go through the items. Again, I don't think that there is any spoiler here, but if you don't want to see any of the components for whatever reason, you can close the rest of the video. I'm just going to show the components of the prototype for the first scenario only. So you have items like red ribbons, mead, breadcrumbs, charred feather, golden apple, hagstone, sunflowers. It's always advised to keep them by number so you can easily access them when the story dictates. Summer wreath, nightshade, confusing map, hopefully it's useful, perplexing map, and baffling map. You have the mark of the sun, you have the mark of the thunder, the mark of the moon, you have bronze sword, flint arrows, golden knife, cauldron, toad, rooster, serpent, savage soul, binding chain, iron tooth, evil eye, wow, shard of wheel, enchanted mortar, and drum. And these are the 55, if I'm not mistaken, cards that you find. There are some more, like this here. The food and the alcohol belong from the core game, but these are also part of the expansion. The broom, the fireflies, the golden apple we've seen in the puzzling map. Okay, so another thing that you have are the 3 different characters, free only for the first scenario. Again, there will be many more in the full expansion box. You have the Brave. I'm not going to show you the back because it's going to be some spoiler just to see. It's exactly the same format. You have the Bride and you have the Broken. I played my playthrough scenario with the Broken, so if you want to check it out, I'm going to maybe put a link in the description of the video as well. And last but not least, we have the minis. Let me show you the new minis. Again, only for the first scenario. This is the Mother, the Witch. I know, because I have encountered her already. This is the Broken one of the characters. I played my my playthrough with this, my latest playthrough. This is really nice miniatures. This is the Brave, the second of the characters to be played. And this is a Bride. And that's the last mini. So these are just the minis again of the core game. And of course, as I mentioned, you see some of the art already on the tiles, again only for the first scenario. But the art is so beautiful, really, so much love and detail has gone into that, and so many things to discover. So there you have it. This is all the components of Destinies Witchwood first scenario. There will be more components for the full game expansion. So there you have it. These are all the components and all the things you need to know for Destinies Witchwood. Personally, I'm too biased. I love the game. I consider it among one of the most thematic, innovative and extremely atmospheric games out there. I love the system, I love the style, I love the gameplay, I love the story, I love the way it plays, the faster turns between players, even in multiplayer, the variability, the different replayability, and also the tremendous possibility with all this community editor, even after you finish any of the expansions or the core game. So let's wrap it up and let's go back up. Okay, fantastic scenery, fantastic background. We're moved into the Witchwood forest, the deep forest with all the spirits and all the different creatures and different possibilities to be discovered. So I'm loving the scene. The scene immediately speaks to me. Maybe it's personal taste, I don't know, but there is a lot of rich world to be discovered in the woods. And even from the first scenario, I'm going to refer to you to the solo playthrough that I did on demonstrating the first scenario out of the 4 that are going to be included in this expansion. I'm loving the world already. So many cool locations, so many nice options, so much story there to be discovered, and so much gameplay moving forward and onwards. So this is really building on a successful, let's say, recipe. It is really successful, the recipe of Destinies, and the Witchwood expansion only makes it even better. You can think it of the dessert, of the cherry on the cake or something like that, because it brings more, but not only more of the same, they also bring some more cool mechanics. I really like the traveling aspect. I can't wait to discover more of the traveling, because it suddenly okay, you're involved in a story, you're in a specific scenery, and you're seeing a grid of tiles that you may expand and explore, but you can go all the way up to the end of your tiles. So you're there. With the traveling option, you can go anywhere. So a sandbox game becomes, I don't know, a whole world of options and opportunities. So this is tremendous in my opinion, and has so much possibility. This is a great idea and a great implementation in the 3rd expansion. The art is phenomenal. The new items, the new characters, the new destinies, the new possibilities, all the new things that they added, I really enjoyed. And I just seen the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg, because I've seen only first scenario out of the 4. I'm looking forward to everything that they're going to announce during the crowdfunding campaign on the GameFound. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video. I highly recommend any Destinies title in the series, but I think this one also is really good, because it brings new mechanics. So this is really a plus in my book. Even if you don't have any of the other expansions, maybe you can go directly from the core game to this expansion as your first buy or your first expansion to check, because exactly it adds more story, more things to discover, but also new mechanics and new ideas. So I think this is a huge plus in my opinion. So loving it. There wasn't a chance that I wouldn't love it, but loving it even more than I would imagine. So looking forward with high anticipation on what is going to be released on the crowdfunding campaign. Do visit the link on the description of this video to find out more about Destinies Witchwood, and see you at the next one.